feel like I'm on a network soap or something with this music. Ah, not sure I've ever listened to it this long. A little bit more than just the piano. Hey, Jacob. Lemon Kebab. That's a hell of a name. I love it. Yeah, it has been for me too, Aria. Yeah, I'm curious how many of you have any experience with it whatsoever. I think it's a really, I, I mean, I've played it and I sort of know the story, but it's a little fuzzy for me. So, I'm sure there's some things that I could be a little bit, I don't know, misremembering a little bit. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfect for a digital storytelling class because, like, let's talk theories after. Yeah, for sure. I think it's. I mean, part of what I want to talk about today is just how it tells its story. Good. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Let's hope technical issues aren't a problem. This stream. I actually reinstalled Windows, so I've got a fresh copy. Well, not a fresh copy, but a fresh install of Windows. That I hope. I mean, my computer's been running better, so I hope streams are better. I haven't yet, but I am determined to basically just get a really long Ethernet cord and run it through the house while I'm streaming. So maybe that will be in order. I don't know. All right, well, it is about time, so I guess let's go ahead and get started. Our music's cut out, so I guess it's ready for us to start. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is DTC 392, Video Games, Histories, and Theories. Gabrielle has joined the lobby. Today we're going to take a look at Sam Barlow's Her Story from 2015. I'm a little bit blown away that it's so old, but I suppose at this point, Telling Lies is a few years old, and it came out a few years after this. So, also a really interesting story, but much bigger scope. And I think this one is. I think its tightness is a benefit. All right, yeah, great to have you, Kathy and Taylor. Sorry if I missed anybody else. I've been trying to keep up with everybody who came in, Miranda and Ryan. Austin. Present. Okay, so, right. Her Story won several awards. Breakthrough Award at the 33rd Annual Golden Joystick Awards. Won Best Narrative at the 2015 Game Awards. Just to name two of a lot. I'm sure it got some Game of the Years back in 2015, but I didn't write all those down. So, I'm going to assume... I'm not going to assume. I know some of you have some experience with it, but I want to, loop in everybody. So, we'll sort of go over some of the details of it without just assuming everyone knows. Interesting. Oh, cool. The lady from the game. Her name is, I wrote it down actually, Viva Safart. I don't know if that's how you say it, but she's a British musician who acted in this game. Okay, so this is her story. This is what the game looks like. Essentially, it's a narrative game, right? And it's told through these little vignettes of video. We are sitting at a sort of 90s era desktop computer. It looks like we have a little bit of information via these README files that we get a little bit of context. This is mainly about sort of this logic database to digitize our workflow and preserve evidence in a manner which will allow you to work more efficiently. Yada yada yada. So essentially, these interview clips have been input into this digitization system, but unfortunately, I guess the system sort of didn't really get developed well. So you miss sort of half of the interview. You don't get any information from the police, the detectives asking questions. You only get the responses. And I suppose sort of in this fictional universe, not only was the video itself uploaded, but it was also sort of tagged with all this metadata, including the transcript. So you can search for words, and if a word is spoken in a video, it will return for you. Shuttercut, that's a great question. That's a fantastic question, and I don't know if I quite want to answer it yet. But I think we should definitely keep that in mind, right? Because I want to ask you about characters, but you're right. There is a character that we are inhabiting, right? That might not necessarily be in the game, although there are little flashes, if you will, of that reveal that identity. Okay, so you have the README and then you have the really README, right? And this is the one that is directed significantly to us. Hey, here's the database. I filed a Freedom of Information form to get you guest access. Everything seems to work. They transferred the videos off the original tapes in '99, and then the Y2K thing hit, and they got mothballed. So that's the sort of explanation as to why this thing is less than robust, we'll say. No one has touched them since. I couldn't find the server with the detectives footage on. Possibly those tapes got damaged when the old archives were flooded in '97. But figure this would be enough. Take your time. SB. Whoever that is. It's sad that you sometimes names file like that. Yeah, no, me too. Usually just directed to myself. Okay, so we are at Southeast Constabulary. Constabulary? I don't know what that word means. I suppose something like a police precinct. We've got a clock. That's handy, I suppose. We have this database checker. And as we uncover bits of the narrative in these videos, these will start turning green to let us know how much of the videos we've seen. I want to say there's like something like 273. Yeah, constabulary, right? Where the constables hang out. I want to say there's something like 273 videos. But I want to say I read that there was only roughly around an hour and a half of video to watch. If you were to just sit and watch the whole thing, one video after another, it'd be about the length of a movie. A pretty short movie at that, right? About 90 minutes. Anymore, anyway. Got a little bit of stuff in the waste bin. This is neat, but probably not very. Cracks with class. That's something called the mirror game. Alright. What do those have to do with the game? Who knows? Maybe nothing. Okay, so that sort of catches us up, right? The organized body of constables of a particular district or country, an armed police force organized on military lines. Yeah, so actually, that might be more of a British term, which is why it's not terribly recognizable to us, because I believe Barlow is British, and I know. What did I say her name was? Viva Seyfarth. Seyfarth? I don't know. I know she's British too, so maybe this is all sort of British context that doesn't quite. The rubbish bin is a dead giveaway. Yeah. I mean, what the thing that I love about this game are these little hints spread out, right? And I definitely want to sort of talk about how all those come together. Okay, Sorry, you're getting me off track here. This is the first screen of the game, right? You see here that we have search terms, and these are blank. And the first search query is filled out for us, right? Murder. We could, of course, go ahead and delete that and go wherever we want. But you know, I tend to go sort of. I tend to follow arrows in games. If a game is pointing away, I go with that. So what I think is really interesting about this, though, is that a player could come in not knowing anything about this game whatsoever, and already just by sort of priming them here, they're getting ready to, well, at least assume that they're going to learn more about a murder investigation, right? So let's go ahead and use that. And then we have these videos with the little icon here, so showing that we haven't seen them yet. I'm going to click through these, we'll watch them, and then I want you to sort of help me figure out where to go next. All right, so let's just go in order. And I think these will appear in chronological order, right? Actually, it might say in this. Right, to retrieve a clip, type in a word, click search. The database will return all clips in which the speaker uses that word. Okay, it doesn't quite say, but I'm pretty sure they are listed chronologically. And for the first little while, we're going to have a limit of only 5 entries that will be returned. That expands, I think, up to 10 later, but that's important. Okay, here we go. You can also add tags, which is handy. Okay. See how murder sort of it comes up, and that's why it's returned. How is the audio for that? Can you all hear her pretty well? Clever craft. Has already solved it. It's a little faint. Okay, I'll turn it up a little bit.
I think it's murder. Clearly it's murder. What can I do to help?
Better? A little bit more. All right.
Yeah, that's me. But February, and that was months ago. What's that got to do with Simon's murder?
Okay. So already in two videos, we have a little bit more information, right? We know now who the victim's name is, Simon. The Quibbly Man might be a little ahead of us, but maybe Simon is our next query. Let's check this one out. We might get something else.
I didn't murder Simon.
There's Simon again.
You've got it wrong. You've got the wrong person.
Simon Cowell. She is a musician, so that makes sense.
I'd like to speak to a lawyer now. Please. You have no murder weapon. You have nothing. And all these stories we've been telling each other, just that. Stories.
All right. I love that one as being sort of this, this hint at the end, right? Clearly, she's being, again, we don't have the other side of the conversation, but she is being accused now, right? Saying that she needs a lawyer, and just brushing off sort of all of this stuff that she said is just stories, which is a really interesting way to sort of present this narrative, right? Okay, super sus. We'll also notice throughout the date and time stamps change, right? This is from June, yeah, June 27th, 94, July 1st, 94, July 3rd, 94, and then the same day, July 3rd. I want to say there are a total of 7 interviews. So we have 3 of the 7. And you can tell, of course, that she's wearing different clothes. All right, let's check out Simon. I love that you bring up L.A. Noire. I really want to sort of talk about it in terms of what, of the differences, I suppose. I think that's a great starting point. All right, here we go with Simon.
Simon Smith. He works at Ernst Brothers Glass. They do windows, all kinds of glass. Simon does the more special work, mirror making, feature windows, artistic things, really beautiful things.
Okay, so he works with... If this were L.A. Noire, I wouldn't have any awards. Yeah, memes maybe, but no awards. I noticed it said there are actually 61 entries. Ah, yes, good call, right? There's 61 instances of Simon, but we only get the first 5.
Simon is 6 foot, darkish blonde hair, average build. He's clean shaven. If his beard grows, it goes ginger, so he shaves it. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with ginger hair. And border photo. They said a spring photo. This was taken last year on holiday in Rome. It's the best one I have.
Okay, so again, this is early in the investigation. I guess we should be taking notes maybe, but I'm not. What's funny is in his follow-up to this, telling lies. It's a lot of the same idea. You're like looking at videos and trying to piece things together, and you only get snippets and only one side of the conversation at once. But interestingly and very helpfully, they include a note-taking app in the game's interface. His workplace, do you think? Were she and Simon romantically involved or just friends? Those are great questions. We don't know yet.
It's the Rockington Arms, the Rock. It's run by a nice couple.
Or maybe just husbands, so neither, right?
There's some other regulars.
Neither romantically involved or friends.
And the bar they're having sometimes. Peter said Simon had been in and had a few drinks.
Okay, so we have a few more names. Peter, Simon, and Helen. Let's go ahead and finish this off.
Yes, there's an Amstrad one. No one uses it for very much. There's a printer so you can write letters on it. Simon sometimes plays games. And Save the Princess. That kind of thing.
Okay, so talking about a computer, maybe, and what did you call it? An Amstrad?
Yes, there's an Amstrad one.
Amstrad. I don't know if that will be useful, but I'll go ahead and make a tag.
Simon isn't the type to run off or do anything crazy. Someone must have done something to him, or there must have been some kind of accident. So what do we do next?
Okay, so at this point in the investigation, we don't know for sure that there's a murder, right? It seems like there is just sort of this missing persons case. Simon is missing. We don't know where he's at. People like him. He doesn't seem to have any enemies. But we don't know where he's at. Okay, so I've got a couple more search terms here. Helen or weapon. What do you think? Some police. Ah, so weapon we've seen already. I take it that's where she's saying you don't have a murder weapon, right?
I'd like to speak to a lawyer now.
Right. Yeah. This is ridiculous. You don't even have a murder weapon. You don't have anything. What do we look up? Helen? This is going to keep track of all of my queries, so I can go back and forth. Okay, so Helen doesn't show us a whole lot. Let's go ahead and look at this one really quickly.
I think he spoke to Helen. She said he was upset about her argument, but I'm not sure what else he said. He likes Helen. He likes blondes.
Okay. A few blondes. Okay, sorry. We have Helen, weapon, accident, police, argument. Oh, yeah? Roxy WSU.
No. I think he spoke to Helen. She said he was upset about her argument, but I'm not sure what else he said. He likes Helen. He likes blondes.
So we don't really see it, but it does look like she's playing with the ring on her left hand, right? So that would be a wedding ring. Yeah. Where did the guitar come from? That's a great question. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you can see it there.
Simon is 6 foot, darkish blonde hair.
All right. Okay, sorry. So we're getting. Is that a different person in video 3? That's a great question. Let's see. It's the same actress. Just
Could
different
the hairs
day.
have come from somewhere else?
She's got her hair up, different clothes.
Could they? We have a lot of dolls in the attic. There's a Rapunzel doll with long blonde hair. Could they have come from there?
Huh.
Could the hairs have come from somewhere else? I mean, could they? We have a lot of dolls in the attic. There's a Rapunzel doll with long blonde hair. Could they have come from there?
That was 3. That was 6:30. This is 6:18. So we don't know for sure that is. It's different days anyway. It might be the same jacket, but different days anyway. Were Simon and Helen both murdered? Oh man, we're hitting the gas on this. I kind of want to go back to the police. I thought that was an interesting one because we got 5 brand new videos. 0627. I believe this would be the second
It
interview.
was
Maybe.
after dinner. I'd spoken to Simon's parents on the phone. I looked up for an early night and I suddenly had this thought. I think it was something his mum had said. She'd been speaking about old stuff, sad stuff.
Red is sus.
About when we lived there. About the baby. There's some boxes in the cellar, nursery stuff we never needed and I never had the heart to throw out. Well, I suddenly remembered that when I'd looked down there the week before, those boxes, that pile was in the wrong place. I went cold all over. I went down there with a torch and went straight to the back. And that's when I saw the bin bags.
I believe she means a flashlight with a torch, not a literal
Pulled
torch.
them open, saw the body. I screamed and that's when I called the police.
All right. So that seems to be, yeah. I mean, we don't know for sure. She doesn't say that it's Simon, but it seems to be the moment that she discovers Simon's body. If, of course, really the only reason we think murder yet is because of that search query. But we have seen at the end where she is seemingly charged with murder and starts talking about how ridiculous it is, right? Okay. Actually, what should I say here? Found the body. This might be useful for us later. Okay, One thing I want to talk about is how the game is set up, right? It's almost akin to something like an open world, right? The sort of all of this archive testimony is at our fingertips if only we can find the correct search terms to actually access it. But nevertheless, it's still possible for us to do that, right? And sort of just looking at all your responses in chat, there's already like 5 or 6 different ways that we could go about starting to uncover all of this, and trying to get at the bottom of it. And I see lots of different interpretations already. So there's also sort of that narrative freedom where the game isn't telling you maybe exactly what happened, but allowing you to sort of read between the lines, perhaps. I only just now noticed the music. Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting. Of course, it might have been because I had it turned down earlier. But thinking of these, not paratextual, but what we call non-diegetic. These things that exist outside of the story world, but are clearly part of the medium, part of the interface that we're dealing with. Diegetic is the alternative to that, and that's like the difference between when you're watching a movie and you hear a sound blaring during the middle of a car chase, for instance, and then the car stops and the guy turns the radio off and the music stops. Right? That is diegetic music because the characters can hear it too. But if it just sort of faded into the background and it was really only for the audience, that's non-diegetic. That means it doesn't exist in the story world. So lots of this stuff does exist in the story world. I guess we have to assume perhaps that the music doesn't. But I guess we're not 100% sure that it doesn't, right? I could definitely think of some arguments that would, sort of point to it being in the story world. But who knows? This is sort of, you can see these reflections of fluorescent lights off of what, we have to assume is a screen. And so that's sort of making reference to a world on the other side of the screen that we don't quite see. And you can even see just a little bit of someone's shadow, someone's dark reflection in the window. Okay. Right, Shuttercat. I like how it allows the player to interactively find the truth instead of being forced-fed story elements. Absolutely, right? It allows you to uncover the story at your own pace, right? And on your own terms. You can go down leads that really, speak out to you, like we've seen already. Police, blonde hair, different names, princesses and Rapunzels. I think it does this really great job bringing back to that idea that somebody brought up of LA Noire and different kinds of detective video games. To me, this game sort of gets more at what it might actually be to be a detective. Following down leads, probably finding some dead ends, backtracking, finding the thing that moves the case forward, so to speak. And it's interesting because you would think a video game as about being a detective would be all about sort of doing the asking, right? Or doing, looking for clues, a la maybe Batman Arkham Horror, where you put on the detective lenses and things glow and you look around. Actually, I think that's part of LA Noire's gameplay too. But it sort of eclipses that. You're not even really the detective, and yet the player here is doing the detective work. Scrutinized, minus the extra characters actually hunting you down and trying to kidnap you. Yeah, I haven't heard of that game, but it sounds great, and it sounds like a little more stressful than this one. Notice that the logic database is almost neutral. Oh wait, do you mean neutral or neural? Some connections are stronger than others. Okay, you do mean neural. I see that with the connections. Some connections are stronger than others, and some reinforce certain narratives. Absolutely. I haven't heard of Welcome to the Game either. I don't think. It rings a little bit of a bell, but I like the instances where games let you find out who the real bad guy is, and then force you to ignore them anyways. Twist the knife in and let the player know that they are not in control. Okay, that brings up a good good question then. Is the player in control of this game? It feels like it, right? We are free to navigate the entire database. But where are we as players? Where are we hampered in our investigative tasks? Here's our database checker. I really love that even though I changed the resolution to fit my full screen, that it still gives me this resolution of like the CRT monitor, which makes sense. Okay, welcome to the Knife has instances where you are on the computer, but you have to be aware of the real world as people try to kill you. That sounds interesting. Okay, Arya has a good point, right? We are in control, but the actual story has already happened. So we are just trying to piece it back together. That brings up some really great connections to, sort of the tensions between narrative and game time, as scholar Jesper Juhl would put it. Juhl was one of the leading quote-unquote ludologists way back in the narratologists versus ludologists debate in early game studies. And one of his really important pieces was this idea about what you're just saying, right? Like, you can't control a narrative because by definition a narrative has already happened, and this is just a retelling of a narrative, right? Whereas in a game is always sort of in the present tense. It's always becoming, right? Get back to that idea. It's always in the process of becoming. I think that's really smart, and I think her story might be a really interesting sort of nexus there, where we have a story, but yet it still feels game-like. It still feels like we are sort of. It still feels like it's in this process of becoming, right? The process of a telling, at least, and then maybe sort of. I don't know. Maybe it points to questions about narrative in games, and do games really have narratives, so to speak? Are games narrative, or are they, telling? Which I don't know. It gets really messy because I think it sort of means the same thing, but there's clearly some tension there between ideas, right? Okay. So sorry. As it is a game, I can assume two things: one, that there is a win condition, and two, that there is a method to obtain it. Now we have the method, but what's the condition? Okay, well, so yeah, I think that's a great question, right? You could argue that this is the condition, right? That you want to uncover all of the pieces here, right? You want to turn all of the red things into green, and that would mean that you have successfully unlocked all the video that there is to see, right? What's interesting there is that, like, in and of itself, that might not be terribly illuminating. Do you know? We could see all of these and not really know what's going on. But if we were looking for a sort of hard and fast, sort of binary, did you do it, did you do not do it, that might be our win condition. I think it does have a win condition, but I think it's not quite as, it's not quite as digital as that. I think the win condition is feeling like you have uncovered the story, right? We have a mystery here, like one of the most sort of basic games that you can have, particularly narrative games. A whodunit, and why, a why done it, I suppose, right? And so, back to sort of filling this database checker out. I can conceive of an instance where we fill the whole thing out and we don't answer those questions. Inversely, I can see how we could maybe answer those questions by only having 2/3 of these things. Like, for instance, in my playthrough, I did not get all of the things, but I had a pretty good grasp of what happened back then. I have forgotten now, because this game is this story is incredibly convoluted, and its manner of telling it only exacerbates that. Okay, this is great. The Quibbly Man. Those are great points. I'm so glad you brought them up. Darkstar says something about amnesia styled storylines. You do not remember much and learn the story through remembering. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are films like that too, right? Sort of the whole sort of mystery is this character wandering around, wondering where they've gone. I think it works really well for video games because it sort of skirts around this problem of background, and it sort of lets the player sort of fill in all of that information. I'm thinking, something like Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. I don't know if he technically has amnesia, but he is so sort of quiet and reserved that it might as well be amnesia, right? Like, we just don't know a lot about him, so we can sort of put our own characteristics into him. I like how it feels like a real life research into a true crime. Absolutely, Shuttercat. Like, I think that's sort of what really grabs me about this game, in that it sort of it abstracts that the actual. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'm going to put in quotes the actual police work of like seeing a detective go to interview people, like in L.A. Noire, right? Like, I feel like those two games are really good mirrors of each other. In L.A. Noire, you play as a detective, you go to the scene, you find the things, you go to the suspect, and you ask him, like, one of a series of 1 or 2 questions, or maybe 3, sort of predetermined dialogue trees, and then he makes an awful face, and you have to determine whether he's lying or not. And in this one, we don't have any of that, but it seems like we're really getting closer to something that seems more real than all of that stuff, right? Like real research. But I'll put real in quotes too. Dylan goes back to the idea that this game doesn't have a win condition. I'll have to agree to disagree there. I think it does, but maybe not one that is hard-coded, let's say. I would agree that it doesn't have a hard-coded win condition. Of course, then we could talk about, does a win condition need to be hard-coded, but, I don't know. I think this game and others similarly blur that line a bit. Like Memento, yeah, good idea. That movie is one that comes to mind. Yeah, and there's actually some work done on games on movies like that started sort of appearing in the late '90s, early 2000s, and it's sort of seen as cinema's sort of answer to video games. It's sort of film narratives as games in and of themselves. Okay. Not to mention we have an unreliable narrator. Hell yes. Being the videos. Oh, I love it. And the women in the tapes. Which makes the player have to make their own inferences to what the truth is based on evidence. Okay. That's really smart. I love that you bring up unreliable narrator, right? And of course we're looking at someone who is being questioned in regards to a murder narrative or murder case. So like, sort of our genre red flags go up, and we already sort of approach her as possibly being unreliable. We don't know, but, our guard's up. But you also bring up the videos being an unreliable narrator, right? So it gets to this idea of this mediation. Well, we're not the ones there actually interviewing her. We have no idea what's being asked of her. So there's this... there's this unsuredness in that's not a word, in what we are receiving, right? We have to be aware that these things are being framed in such a way, not to like No pun intended, but I can totally see how that pun works, you know, being framed. Good. That's really, really interesting. Darkstar says an interesting twist would be, are we her lawyer? Right, so while we learn the truth of whether or not she did it, we have to still try to prove her innocence. That might be her story too, right? An unreliable narrator with the big squad crew. Okay. Fantastic. Oh man, that's a lot further than I really expected us to go with this game. That's amazing. Okay, but I don't think we answered the question that I posed to you earlier about freedom, right? Going back to sort of that idea of the unreliable narrator and this mediated information that we're receiving, right? Oh my god, this is coming together so well. So there are limits, right? We have the freedom to navigate this, assuming we can get the right search queries, right? But first, our access is limited to the first 5 entries, right? And those entries appear to be chronological, right? So, for instance, let's look up confess. I don't know if this is going to pull up anything, but I kind of hope it does. Okay. Pulls up something. Let's look.
Okay, you got me. I'll confess. We were there. It was a dirty weekend. Simon was going to expense it, pretend it was a business trip. I used a made-up name. We stayed at the hotel, had room service, didn't leave the room, had a great view of the river, and you could hear the church bells. Like you said, it was very romantic. Expense it, pretend Simon was going to expense it, pretend it was a business trip.
Okay, so that's I feel like that's a pretty cheeky trick that Barlow's played on us, right? We try to get to the end. We try to say, okay, well, does she ever say, okay, I confess? And she does. But it's pretty trivial, right? In fact, we learn that it's actually her and Simon going on a trip, right? Or a honeymoon. Right. So not what we want. And it's the only one, right? Right, Shuttercat, absolutely, about deepfakes. Dylan says, so many very specific limitations in how you navigate. Right. Tattoo, good job. Does tattoo have 3 T's? Yes.
No, he doesn't have any tattoos. He has a scar down here near his stomach, past his hip. Cut himself with some glass. That was before, a long time ago. He looks just like the photo. He's not got his glasses on here though. He takes them off for the camera. But he needs them to see properly. You know, he has to read a newspaper or a menu in a restaurant. Not book so much, or watching TV.
Okay, so we got some information about Simon. He doesn't have a tattoo. This appears pretty early, right? I think that was the first. Since they are married, why not search wife? That's a good idea. Okay. Before I go further, I've tried to make this point like 3 times. I keep forgetting. I keep getting distracted. This idea that we only have 4 things, right? And we search and we only get the first 4 keeps us from accessing information later on in the narrative, right? So, for instance, you know, we'll have sort of our cache here filled up with early interviews. But, for instance, you know, when we put in... What was the one that gave us so many... Oh, shoot. So many returns here. Well, Simon, for instance. There's 61s, but we only have these 5. So it might really be that she, at the end, for instance, hypothetically says, fine, yeah, I killed Simon. We're not going to get that unless we type in, I killed Simon, and that happens to be, an actual piece of text that she says. Right. So, a designer then can, and, spoiler alert, does, sort of couches all of this narrative heavy stuff in those later sessions that you don't have quite, while you technically have access to, you don't quite have the vocabulary, almost literally, to actually access them until you've gone through this game a little bit, right? And sort of involved yourself, participated in this process. Okay. Let's go back to tattoo real quick, because I want to at least look at that one, and then we'll check out wife, maybe, or child. Yeah, because this is what she's talking about, the tattoo itself.
My tattoo. I got it to express my individuality. It's an apple and a snake.
All right. If you know this game already and you know the story, I'm going to show this again. I just sort of noticed this really great piece of acting that she does.
Oh, my tattoo.
Right here.
I got it to express my individuality.
Did you see that sort of, oh shit, look on her face?
It's an apple and a snake.
It's really interesting. Is there betrayal with the apple and snake story? Yes, it's actually, so this game is really big on its symbolism and its allegories, right? What's the big story about an apple and a snake? Somebody said it already, like clever craft, Adam and Eve, right? So that might make us type in Adam and or Eve. Some of that inference, right? It's not explicitly stated there, but it gives us an idea to start.
The occasion. I was singing in a bar in the evenings, so I had some money, enough money to cover my rent. And I've been doing something similar ever since. I haven't put down any roots. I don't exist.
All right. So now here we have the character telling us that she's never put down roots, and yet, we're all pretty certain that she's married. Let's go back and watch that again. Does she have a ring on?
So I moved out.
That's interesting, yeah?
Got a small bed sit.
Okay.
He saw me singing one of my shows. Pure chance. Not sure I remember what he was even doing there. Afterwards, I had a drink at the bar and he came over and we got talking. I knew who he was. Obviously I knew who he was. But he didn't know who I was. He was fascinated by the likeness. He guessed my name from my tattoo. Told me it was a palindrome, like that would impress me. I enjoyed talking to him. It was amazing to be able to sit and interact and talk to him after all this time. He didn't tell me he was married.
Later, I think, yeah.
I'm not sure what he was thinking. He later told me it was like he was dreaming. A waking dream.
Yeah, so this happens in early July, and with the ring was late June. Okay, so we've already anticipated what we learned from here, right? From here. But she mentions that whoever she's talking about guessed her name from her tattoo, right? And so, we could look up Eve. Fresh with the Bible stories, yeah. No, I understand. the good majority of her has her covering her arm. Yeah. Yeah. And you can, I mean, that's sort of, you know, the thing that I was sort of getting at when I mentioned sort of that oh shit moment that she had when she realized that it wasn't covered anymore. You can sort of see it in the actress's face, like
my tattoo.
Right there. Yeah?
I got it to express my individuality.
That's clever. Or I might be reading into it. Who knows, right? Sort of back to that idea of the unreliable narrator. There's also the unreliable reader, who might be following clues that aren't really there. That is the most BS reasoning for a tattoo. I have 2 of them, and no person I know who has them justifies it like that. There's almost always a reason to paint your canvas in the way that you choose. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. But some people, you know, just like getting tattoos. I have several, and there are reasons, but you know, sort of the more you get, the less pickier you become about tattoos. I've also got a Ninja Turtle on my leg, sort of to give you an example of how you get less picky. Okay. Okay, so we've kind of gotten Leonardo, but you know, it's gonna be a project. I want all of them. I'm thinking heroes on one leg, villains on the other. I'll be like 60 by the time I get that all finished, but who knows? Okay. Cowabunga, right. Let's go back to see what we should search for. Somebody said Helen earlier, maybe Peter. We already looked at Helen. Let's see what Peter gives us. Okay, so Peter doesn't really... We've already seen the one mention of Peter, right? So Peter's sort of a dead end there. Again, sort of going back to that idea of him being a little cheeky, you know? Like, giving us some proper names early on, which seem like, okay, well, I'll follow these up. And they don't really lead us anywhere. Pops, I see your mirror. But I'm going to try ring first. Okay, so only one instance of ring. Mirror, actually, I will do mirror next because I think that sort of illustrates what I was talking about earlier.
No, he wasn't wearing his wedding ring.
I don't think we've done attic yet either. Okay, so this, we can tell by the clothing and the date, is the same interview where she's talking about, what was she talking about? I can't remember exactly what she was talking about, but the idea that, the guy who met her and guessed her name, right?
No, he wasn't wearing his wedding ring.
Okay. Let's look up mirror first, because I think it's going to give us a lot. Yes, perfect. Okay. So see, we have 4 new entries, but there are 6 hidden to us. And so we're not quite, you know, even if we sort of can ascertain from these 5 that mirror is an important aspect of this, we're a little bit blocked here from actually sort of getting maybe too much of the narrative off the bat.
My name is Hannah. Hannah. It's Pandra. It reads the same backwards as forwards. It doesn't work from mirror though, it's not quite symmetrical, but well, you get the idea. Sorry. Hannah Smith, I live at 31 Gladstone Street.
Okay. So we finally got a name. Although I don't know how you would get Hannah from a tattoo about an apple and a snake. Hannah Smith, right?
It wasn't the present so much. It was one of those arguments that had been simmering for a while. The present was a mirror. A nice mirror. He'd engraved the glass, the kind of mirror a princess would have in a story. He made it specially for me.
Oop! Oh, man. We only have 8 minutes left with this part of the class. So, that's beautiful. Is this even the same woman? So, right? You could cover that up or put a fake one on, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah. So we don't know. We don't know. And sort of, sort of back to this idea. Sorry, I'm obsessed with it, but it's so smart and like totally what I wanted to get out of this, and I really just I didn't even put it into words like that. But it goes back to this idea of this media being unreliable, right? Because all we have are these images. If we were the detective, we could inspect it more. We could scratch it. You know, we could inspect it to see if it's a new tattoo or an old tattoo. You know, maybe we could put water on it to see if it comes off. But all we have are these, you know, somewhat passive images here. Great. All right, here we go. Sorry. Yellow jumpsuit? No, not quite.
I can't remember.
Or orange, rather, yeah.
I put it somewhere safe. Upstairs, I think.
Oh my God, the Law and Order thing.
Haven't looked at it since.
You almost made me spit my water. Dun dun! What this game needs is Ice-T. Ice-T needs to narrate what we're doing. Shoot, sorry. Actually, I mean, like, I feel like this is a pretty productive stream, so we can go a little past whatever time it is if y'all want to.
This mirror, it's supposed to look antique. The reflection isn't as good. It's the perfect mirror for someone who doesn't like to look at their own reflection.
Okay. No tattoo. We have a little bit of video evidence here. Going back to the sort of flip side of that, right? Not only can video sort of obscure truth, but it can also give us more clues, things that aren't said. For instance, what do you get about this?
Silverleaf? No. He normally silvers them properly. This mirror, it's supposed to look antique. The reflection isn't as good. It's the perfect mirror for someone who doesn't like to look at their own.
Dark Star's 100% right. It's in an evidence bag, right? So sort of speaks to the importance of this mirror. Why is this mirror in an evidence bag? Which isn't really, you know, like, if we couldn't see it, if this were not in video, we wouldn't have that information. Let's go back to the tattoo. I feel like I can feel a lot of interest on it. Someone asked, Roxy asked, but did she get the tattoo during the interrogation period? Remember, the interrogation period is maybe six weeks or so, sort of from the end of June to the beginning of July, I think.
Tattoo. I got it to express my individuality. It's an apple and a snake.
Ah, damn. That's not what I thought. Yeah, okay, so I don't want to just blurt it out unless we said it, but I'm not so sure. I think at some point they mention when they got the tattoo. They're trying to describe the mirror, which could also be like the glass that cut Simon. Okay. Yeah, somebody also said, Kat, it's an old tattoo as of July 1st. If she can rub it, it's healed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, right. Tattoos take a minute. Although, I mean, like, it looks like a good tattoo. It's pretty dark.
My tattoo.
Although the video image is so, I mean, the what am I trying to say? We can't really see a lot of details, so maybe it's just a dark mark by now. But right, like, there would be some bandages, and if it were real new, probably glossy from her putting like lotion and stuff on it. Okay. Darkstar brings up a good point, right? Wait, if someone guessed her name by the tattoo, so she had to have had the tattoo during at least that episode, however long ago that was. Then the person she was talking about in that scene was not Simon. She got it when she moved out. It was when she moved out, I think. Just words. I can just search words. Unless they say the date. Could it be Satan? Satan? Is that a church lady reference? If it's not, it is, because that's totally that's totally the church lady. Oh my god. We have another unnamed character. Okay, well we do actually. We do. We have Hannah. Twin, okay. No, we've already looked up Peter. Well, I mean, we've looked up Peter, and there was only that one video that we got.
Twins? Really? Are you really asking me that question?
Okay, so I think this is a really interesting clip, and that it's... what? Wait. Our music changed. So back to this idea of the win condition. A win condition is a particular type of state, right? And I think what we've just gotten to is a state change. A time where the game has changed states, right? So, does it have a win condition? Arguably. Does it have states? Chapter 2. Right. Yes, right? Okay. Which is interesting because we could have gotten here in 10 seconds, or it could have been in a week, you know, like boss music. Oh, okay, sorry. Back to this idea about, you know, sort of having to infer the other side of the conversation, right? Are you really asking me that question? We have to ask, well, what question was she being asked?
Twins? Really? Are you really asking me that question?
Okay, so she is acting shocked. Twins. Which is, you know, are you a twin? Did you have twins? Yeah. We have to infer that.
Are you out of your mind? Twins?
Oh, did you see that? I was hoping that would happen. I wasn't really sure it would. We got a little bit of a glimpse of the player character. It looked to be a girl. Looked to be female. Looked to be. I mean, it was a brief moment.
Florence took me home with her. Mother hadn't been expecting twins and had a healthy baby. I guess she was just happy for Florence to clean up. Take away the evidence that this was anything but a happy occasion.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely see sort of like the curve of a head here and here. So, mother had twins. Florence to clean up the mess. Okay.
There were always princes and princesses. They were the special people, more important than the other characters in their stories. We knew we were like that. Twins. Magical. We were the princesses. We had a poster of Princess Diana from the newspaper up in our attic. Had a pride of place. And underneath we used to put all our special things. When her engagement was announced, we were obsessed with everything she did. And later, when her life went so bad, we felt for her. Her divorce last year just kind of drew a line under things.
Their story. Okay, so Someone asked about searching attics earlier, right? So we can see how easily we could have gotten to this video via another means, maybe. It is rather late in the sequence of interviews, so maybe attics wouldn't have gotten us there, and it wouldn't have. But there's still more. All right, sorry, I'm gonna look up baby. I think it was child, because I've seen that a few times. 12 entries, right.
Yes. I read a lot as a child and watched lots of TV. Then the doll's house we had, we still have in the attic.
Attic again.
It's kind of a fairy castle. We used to play up there and make up our own stories.
So I didn't take this as a...
Yeah. We were 17. It was a nice wedding, people said. Simon looked very handsome in the photos. His parents paid for everything, but he's an only child, so it was important to them. It was what they called a shotgun wedding, but if you looked at the photos, you couldn't tell. The dress was beautiful. It looked like Princess Diana's. The train wasn't quite as long, though. There's a great photo of the bridesmaid helping to carry it out of the car.
This writing is really damn good. I can't really go into why I think that without spoiling a whole lot. But her focus on photos there is really interesting. So many guesses.
It was just me and her.
I remember my first shotgun wedding. How many shotgun weddings have you had?
Child. They talked about it, and I'm going to try when he came back. Florence's family had a history of firstborn girls, so they were convinced it was going to be a girl. It's hard to know if this is all true. These are stories I remember that I read when I was a child. Maybe I misread, maybe I misunderstood. Sometimes it's hard to remember what happened last week.
A double-barrel shotgun wedding. Okay, it's brilliant. Florence. So we got a little bit of I mean, I don't know, something of a lead? If not a lead, then at least an avenue. Well, that's not what I added. Okay, sorry. The auto moderation did not like Kachink for clear reasons, but it's stupid.
Across the road, where my parents first lived there, was a midwife called Florence. When Hannah was born, I was born at the same time. The midwife was there to help. I'd been throttled by the cord, probably wrapped around my neck by Hannah.
What?
The midwife told my mother I was dead. But I wasn't. She wrote all this stuff in a diary. Amazing what people will admit to on paper.
Okay. Up. All right. Another little glimpse of the player character. It's interesting that the main character, of course, is full motion video, but the player character is clearly very... Oh yeah, I see what you mean there. It's clearly rendered. Well, she seems fine. Right, sorry. Search Hannah too. We haven't done that yet. All right, let's keep seeing. Let's
Florence raised me in her home. I never left it. She kept me out of sight. It wasn't odd for people to see a midwife with a baby, carrying in supplies, washing nappies, that sort of thing. I never knew any different. I grew up looking out of my window and seeing her across the road. I thought it was like a reflection in the mirror. She was me.
All right. So we're getting this. We're finally sort of already, I guess, actually, sort of getting this story of twins separated at birth. The midwife stealing away one that the mother thought was dead.
Florence was a warm, kind person. But she was broken, I guess. When I found her diary, I also found a biscuit tin with other stuff in it. Older papers, letters, that kind of thing.
Another
Her
mirror
story
reference,
wasn't
yeah.
there. I never really spoke to her about it. I was far too young to really understand, I guess. I just put it together later, once I was older.
Roll credits.
She had loved children, planned to have a large family.
Well, remember, we don't know who murdered Simon.
But her husband died in the war. And that was back when you married for life. She never felt like she could marry again. Isn't that strange? She was a widow from her 20s. But, I mean, I guess it was different then. You know, you married for life and she felt she could never marry again. I guess it was harder, a war widow.
Title drop.
One of the dead. I don't know, maybe there was more to it than that. I don't really know.
Okay. We have, way up at the top of chat, the Quibbly Man says there's Hannah and there's her twin. We only have Hannah's name, right? Do we have another name? Somebody said it already, right? Yeah. So we get the idea from the tattoo. Both are palindromes, right?
Well, my friend Eve. I mean, she was a friend from when I was a kid. And she was always more popular with the boys, and I used to hate her for it. I mean, really hate her sometimes. What are you doing talking about Eve?
I love how widespread M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong is. Like everyone I know calls him that. What's really interesting and sort of gets at how deep this game goes is that little tapping is a code. She mentions, somebody mentions in another video about sort of this code that they've devised. And I had to look it up. They mentioned sort of what kind of code it is. Look it up, find out how to sort of decipher it. It has to do with sort of imagining the alphabet on a wheel, you know, and like how many clicks over you go, and then you click back and then click back. It's not quite Morse code, but yeah, anyway, I can't quite remember what it says, but it's totally code. Okay. Have they had their eyes for the ring or not? Right. Okay, so actually that gets us to this other question that I want to ask you. So, thinking about this game as a story, right? And clearly, I want to ask you about how it's different than a film or a novel. And, I would be very interested in hearing you speak on it, but clearly it's not quite something that we can do over the thing. And I think, I can sort of guess what you would say about the differences. For one thing, this is interactive, and I'm able to sort of, it's sort of a database narrative, right? I can jump in where I want, find out information, move somewhere completely else. It's very hypertextual in that way. But I'm curious sort of about this idea of the actress's performance. Sorry. I lost my brain. And how much meaning we are deriving from these little, seemingly innocuous tics that the actress has, that, may or may not actually be meaningful. And I think it's really interesting to consider, going back to our sort of definition and the history of video games, how it is, of course, not only derived from games, and not only, a descendant of computational technology, but that it's still very much visual media, right? It still has roots in theater and in film and in television, and I guess this is actually not only visual but performance art. So, I don't know. Of course, someone might say, well, this game, of course, does that because there's actual video in it, and there's actual live, actors and actresses playing the parts. But I think, the same thing could be said about voice actors, or, even just animation. Does the villain give anything away by a sly twirling of his mustache or whatnot, right? That's still sort of performance and art. Shuttercat, right? That's a nice touch. Both their names are like looking through a mirror. They're both palindromes. The same forwards and backwards. Split? Okay.
No, I was 15. Carl was older, 17, I think.
Carl.
I was really into him, regardless of how he actually behaved. Lots of drunken teenage sex. We did it in a church once. It was stupid. So he got tired of us, and we split up after about 6 months. It was sad, but those early experiences, they help you realise who's really important to you, Family.
Pardon me. I want to watch that again. I think I hear somebody else say something.
No.
When she mentions the church, I think.
Carl
Listen.
was older. 17, I think. I was really into him, regardless of how he actually behaved. Lots of drunken teenage sex. We did it in a church once. It was stupid. So he got tired of us.
Alright, sorry, I think it's just background noise. It sounds like you can hear people in the next room talking. You can even hear sort of a phone ring. Okay, it was murmur. So split personality disorder would have shown up under split. Carl, yeah, thanks. Okay, so lots of Carl.
Was he my first? No need to be so coy. No, he wasn't my first. That would have been Carl. He was a local boy in a band. He was a bit of a shit. But he was sexy. We were 15. Family. So, Carl fucked off, and then there were other boys here and there, and then Simon.
Okay, and then Simon. Remember, we didn't really dig into this, but they mentioned the shotgun wedding, right? They got married at 17, I think, to Simon. Simon's parents paid for it all because he was an only child.
She's a better driver than me. She passed the test for us. I tried to take it and nearly crashed the car. Learned that you can't rely on confidence to get you through everything.
Right.
She is the shy one. She was especially shy around boys. If Hannah liked a boy, I would have to pursue him. It was that way with Carl. Hannah met him first. She had such a crush. I let him take my virginity after a night that his band had played at. It got difficult. When I was with Carl, we would have sex, but Hannah couldn't let him see she was a virgin. She had lots of excuses. After a while, we decided that I should take Hannah's virginity. It's not that different to a bruise, pulling a tooth, a graze. We used a hairbrush. After that, we took it in turns, though. I was always the one who seduced the boys. Until Simon.
Okay. I see lots of theories about
Hannah was so
split personalities.
She started getting jealous. Didn't want to share. Even the first date.
I don't think that's a bad way to read it.
We both went. Kept changing places in the toilet. We only had one best dress, so we had to keep swapping clothes. Must have thought we had terrible bladder problems. The next date, it was my turn. At the end, I let him kiss me, but that was it. We didn't want another Carl on our hands, and the Ouija board had said to hold back. After that, it was Hannah's turn, and she slept with him. Broke the rules. Deliberately broke the rules. She wanted to be the first to sleep with him. I mean, that's when she got pregnant. From that one time.
Ah, pregnant from that one time. Oops. Okay. Clever craft, right? She couldn't swap anymore. Swap? Okay.
Just became our way of life. We would swap places and take it in turns to do things. And we were very careful. Whoever had been out that day would come back and write a detailed diary so that we were on the same page. We had a list of rules that said what we could and couldn't do in any given situation. It was exhaustive. We lived a second life through those rules. Rules for things that could only ever happen inside our imaginations. And we would consider all the permutations of future events and agree rules to walk our way through them.
Where do you guys get the Ouija board? Did I just zone out when she was talking about that? It's entirely feasible. Oh shoot, that's not what I meant to do. This is funny. I moved this up so now that the thing is sort of obfuscating our. Okay, so there's some questions about who's pregnant, Hannah or Eve.
I got pregnant. Both our parents had a big powwow. We weren't even in the room, and they decided we should get married.
Okay, so it seems like Hannah, right? No tattoo. She got married. She got pregnant at 17, hence the shotgun wedding, right? If you don't know, that's what a shotgun wedding means. It means like getting married because you got pregnant. Old-fashioned term, I think it is implying that like the dad of the bride is holding a shotgun to you. Probably not the most polite way to mention it.
I won't be sick again. This happens some days. I'm pregnant. It's morning sickness.
Well, well, well. Pregnant at 17, pregnant now. What?
No. Well, yes. He found out on my birthday. I told him I was pregnant.
Of course, who he is, we don't know.
It's Rapunzel. The story starts when she's born. Mother Gothel, a witch, takes Rapunzel from her parents and keeps her locked up in this tower. Rapunzel gets pregnant by the prince, and Mother Gothel is furious, so she cuts off her hair and throws her. Actually, her hair's already short here, so that's already happened.
Yeah.
So she throws her into the wilderness, and Rapunzel is reunited with the prince, who's
sorry.
blind. But she kills him with her tears, and so it's a happy ending. Is that too much?
I believe it was this one.
No. Well, yes. He found out on my birthday. I told him I was pregnant.
Yeah, the Quibbly Man. From what I remember, you're not too far off there. They say, how meta would it be if the ones where she's Hannah, she's actually Eve, pretending to be Hannah, and vice versa, just to confound the investigation that much more. I mean, that sort of goes back to my oh shit, thing about the tattoo, where one of them, Eve, I suppose, is the one with a tattoo, realizes that, oh fuck, I forgot to cover that thing up. Now I've got to make up a story about it. Yeah, their hairstyles at one point looked a lot like a combination of Eve and Hannah's hairstyles. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like maybe Hannah, who we can assume this is, because of the no tattoo, seems to wear her hair up. So that begs,
when I arrived in Glasgow,
begs questions,
I was exhausted.
If Hannah or Eve is now pregnant again.
I was driving badly, and I hit a taxi. Not a big crash, just paintwork. The guy was so pissed off because I didn't have a driving license on me. But when I told him I was pregnant, he made sure I got to the hospital so they could check me out. It was fine. The hospital must have details when I was looked at. There's a scratch on the car.
Okay, so we have 10 entries about pregnancies, or pregnant, but I am limited to only the first 5. I think I mentioned this before, but after so long, after you've unlocked so many of these, you do. I can't remember if that completely goes away or just increases like up to 10 entries or something like that. Aria. Eve doesn't have a driver's license because she doesn't get out much. Eve doesn't have, ostensibly, doesn't have a social security card or whatever they do in Britain, right? Like, she's not on the map. She's off the grid. She was stolen and raised in she was raised in an attic. 627, she says she's pregnant, but the first video, 625, she talks about the shotgun wedding, right? Yeah, so I mean, I think there are two pregnancies in discussion here, right? One when they were teenagers, causing them to get married, and another one now, which, you know, we don't know who the father is in the first one, or really who the mother is. Rapunzel, that was it. Okay, let's do this one, and then I'll do Fairy Tale, and then I think maybe we'll call it quits.
Sorry.
Unfortunately,
The way it's drawn just reminded me of the books we used to read as children. I read those fairy tales over and over, and they were so real to me. Rapunzel was my favourite. My brain is just full of it. How many of these in colour?
this is the same outfit as the I'm pregnant interview, I'm pretty sure.
Did I pass? Sorry, I messed it up with all that Rapunzel stuff. Do you need me to do that card again?
Okay, so maybe this is something like a Rorschach test. Rorschach, yeah, where they're giving her things and asking her to think about what it reminds her of. Inkblot, I'll say that.
We were obsessed with fairy tales, not just the pretty ones, but the traditional ones. They were dark and real, bizarre and violent. Felt like life. We had this huge old book that I think Mum must have bought from a library sale. The illustrations had thin tracing paper over them to protect them. They were in colour, shiny plates. At the front of the book was an index of illustrations. We read that more than the actual stories. We'd read aloud the captions and flip between pictures. There was something intimate about peeling back the tracing paper and dressing the pictures. Rapunzel's hair is cut. The eagle plucks out his heart. The princess pricks her finger.
All right, let's do Fairy Tale. Let's see. Let's see what we get. So several more. All right.
And the Glaziers. I worked there some weekends, and Simon had a part-time job there too. That was Eric's generosity. He was always good at helping out other people's children. Simon was quiet, more thoughtful than the other boys. Even then, he had a sense of craftsmanship. Wasn't always rushing stuff. Boys that age are just running around like headless chickens most of the time. Yeah. Plus, he had that look. He looked like a fairy tale prince from one of my books.
Glaciers, yeah. We'll check that one too. Now, because I'm curious what that is.
Simon never cheated on me. He was devoted to me, and I was devoted to him. Nothing in life is easy. We were good to each other. Life isn't a fairy tale. Do what you can.
We're pretty sure that Eve is the one with the tattoo. It's hard to say anything for certain,
Well,
but
she
we're pretty
wasn't
sure.
my real mother, but she raised me. Do you want to hear the story? It's a real life fairy tale. Fairy tales. Stories about lost princesses, evil witches, magical mirrors, and lost children. So you see, even before I knew the truth, I'd found it in those stories.
So that's what this glaciers.
A mobile phone? Yeah.
After
Well,
7-3, that's a
they
good
have one for the
question.
Glaciers, but it's only for work. I can't remember the number. Well, they have one for the Glaciers, but it's only for work. I can't remember the number.
I don't know what that is. Glaziers.
It's in the kitchen. I saw it plugged into its charging cradle.
Read fairy tales, life becomes fairy tales. Art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life
Diana's
again.
really nice. She helps out with the Glaziers, organises the Christmas party, that sort of thing. They have 2 kids, really sweet kids.
Right.
She used to look out for me when I worked there.
Glaziers, not glaciers.
I did. Well, we met when we were 17, both working at the Glaziers. We couldn't afford our own place. Simon dropped
Oh,
out
okay.
of school.
That makes
went
sense.
full-time
Yeah.
at Glaziers. That was Eric's generosity.
Because Simon
Didn't
is
see
a
him die.
is a glazier. He makes mirrors, she mentions.
And the baby.
Yeah.
It became.
Thanks for that Google work.
It was a nice change. Time to myself, living there for those months, full of hope.
Yeah. A glazier is a glass person. We learned something today. Your parents ask you what you learned in the video game
Everyone
class. Tell
loved
them.
Simon.
I learned what it's called
He's a
when
glazier
someone
who
makes
doesn't have
glass.
much money. I don't know. I don't know.
Cause he's the glass man. Yeah, he's the glass man. Okay. We went over like a half hour, but I think that was great because this has been a lot of fun. And I think actually we have just changed to like playing this game with you all, which is a lot of fun. But we should probably get back into class mode. So let's take a 5 to 10 minute break. And then we'll meet back on Zoom and talk more about all of this stuff. Thanks so much for helping me out. I can't believe, honestly, I feel like we got a good ways through this. If you're interested in it, it goes on sale quite cheaply. I highly recommend taking a gander at it. It's also on it's on Basecamp, the link to Zoom. I could send that out again too when I get off of here. But it's also on iOS and probably Android too, and probably a little cheaper than it is on Steam. Okay, I'll send that out in just a moment, and I'll see you then. Until then.